Welcome to the second episode of our Beyond the Boat podcast series. I'm Carla, Johl, a performance life coach here at High Performance Sport New Zealand. We work with Rowing New Zealand to support our rowers with anything they're doing beyond the boat. So in this episode, we are talking to Sarah Wootton, who is a part of our Rowing New Zealand Elite Development Squad. Sarah has only recently joined Rowing New Zealand here in Cambridge, and her journey to becoming an athlete started much later than most. So welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are we doing today? How was the water?
Good. It was actually really nice this morning. Very glad it wasn't foggy.
Has been foggy the past few days, so I think you're lucky to get out there, aren't you?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to have you on, and I'm really excited to chat to you today because you've been on quite the journey over the past couple of years to getting here. And so it's going to be great to talk to you about what that's been like and what you're up to at the moment, especially outside of the boat. Because compared to many other people, you've obviously gotten into rowing a little bit later, and you've come from working a full-time job and having to work your rowing around your career, and you've pretty much now flipped the switch. So let's kind of reel it back to the start and tell us a little bit about how you actually got into rowing and sort of what went into making the decision to say, I want to do this full-time. I want to be a high-performance rower.
Cool. So I was never really much of a sort of athlete in as I was a teenager in high school and at uni. I didn't really do too much. So came around to my first year of working after graduating, and one of my colleagues was involved in the Wellington Rowing Club and was like, you should come along for a corporate season. I was like, here you guys get up early in the morning. I don't know about that. And so I decided to go just as an opportunity to get fit, sort of tried it out for a couple of weeks. And then the following year, tried it out again, and this time decided to actually do a novice season, which I had heard at that point was quite a commitment, understatement of the year.
Yeah.
So within a couple of weeks, I was working around rowing as opposed to the other way around. And so I did a novice season, an intermediate season, and then straight into a senior season through the Wellington Rowing Club. And during that time, I was working full time as well.
Wow.
I was sort of two different companies during that time, and then decided halfway through my third season that I wanted to go into high performance and consider it. So at the end of the season, I chatted to one of the coaches up at Nationals and was like, can I try your winter program? Yeah, sort of jumped on, and then sort of every step of the way it's been cool, let's see what it looks like at the next level. Cool, let's see what it looks like at the next level. And now I'm in Cambridge.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of incredible if you think about, you said you kind of didn't really do anything quite like rowing or sport in that capacity. So what was it about rowing that actually just like drew you in, that suddenly you were like, you know what, I can do the sport thing?
One of the things I really loved about it actually was that it was learning a new skill, you were getting fit, and it was your entire social network for a while. So instead of spending 12 hours a week learning a new skill, 12 hours a week getting fit, and 12 hours a week socializing with my friends, I could do all of those all at the same time.
A one-stop shop.
Yeah. And I've really loved it as well. Like, I've always enjoyed being fit. So like I tried to stay fit, wasn't particularly good at it at uni, and uni had other plans. But I've sort of enjoyed being fit. I've always enjoyed pushing myself. And it turns out racing is really fun, and turning up and training every day on the water, and beautiful water, beautiful boats, rowing with fun people. That's kind of what got me hooked.
Yeah. Now it's quite a big decision to go from working a full-time job in Wellington and moving your entire life up to Cambridge to pursue this. So what went into making that decision? Like, what did you have to consider, especially outside of rowing, before you pulled the trigger on that?
I sort of had been thinking about it for quite a while. So it was a process. It wasn't just like, I'm going to move. And there was a lead up of me doing sort of winter training in Wellington before I even got into the training squad in Blenheim, so I moved to Blenheim.
Yeah.
I had a couple of things that I had to work out. Obviously, I'm in a long-term relationship, and so I had a partner that had to get him on board as well, and he's been incredibly supportive this entire time. And was like, yeah, that sounds cool. You go do your thing.
Yeah.
And I also had to get work on board as well. So, I've supported myself through this entire thing, and one of the reasons why I've been able to do all of this and to because obviously starting off rowing as volunteer for quite a long time. Yeah. So it was only through work allowing me to work remotely and travel back and forth from Wellington to support myself. So I had to arrange all of those things and also decide to leave my friend network. I've been in Wellington for 10 years, so my main friend group is there as well. So couple of things to consider.
Yeah, plenty of things to consider there. And I mean, you mentioned your partner and your friends and the company that you work for prior to coming up here. How important is that support network that you had and have now in making that decision and the impact of that decision now? How important is having that support with you, and where did you find it?
Absolutely crucial. I couldn't have done it without them. Obviously, first it was Blenheim and now it's up in Cambridge. So, convincing your partner that to go into a long distance relationship so you can go and chase your dreams. Very supportive partner on the other end. Yeah. Thanks, Simon. So he's been really, really good about that. Crucial for work as well to be able to. I think one of the benefits is that I was far enough down my career. I was actually able to negotiate working remotely and working alone.
Yeah.
So still able to maintain momentum in my career, although it did slow down a little bit. And then since moving up to Cambridge, actually, I found I've shifted companies to a more local company out of the Waikato and Auckland area. So that's been key as well. And also another key support is that I was lucky enough to have a mentor early on.
Nice.
So Tina, who's rowed previously for Germany, was able to I was able to be like, somebody's told me this thing about rowing, and I know this thing about rowing, and I'm really confused. And so she was able to sort of make sense of a lot of that for me, which was definitely key.
Yeah. And I think you speaking there about kind of finding Tina, I think it's quite an important piece, obviously, with the transition, is being able to seek out those support people to help you make those decisions. Yeah. And it sounds like you've done that really well. And how, now that you are in Cambridge and you've moved up here, how's that support network changed since you've made that move?
Yeah, it's still there. It has grown massively. Obviously, as soon as you get into the high performance system, there is you have access to a hell of a lot of support, and so I've really taken advantage of that. And that has been key. Whether it's sort of life coaches, performance support, physio, everything. That's been really, really key to kind of staying on top of everything and making sure that I'm staying in the boat. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you look kind of back at your decision, what has been the impact of it on you, both professionally, personally, and on your relationships?
Big question.
We throw them out hard here.
Impact on my relationships. I think I've really learned to, moving away from somewhere you've been for a while always sort of forces you to work out who your friends are and really prioritize those relationships, and really work out the support that you get from friends and family and partners and stuff, and really not to take that for granted. And actually, it is difficult to foster and maintain and grow those relationships remotely, but it's been really important for me to sort of keep on top of that and try and spend as much time actually keeping in touch with people. Impact on my career. I'm still working. So I've reduced my hours again. So I'm now working part-time, 20 hours a week. I'd say it's I potentially missed out on some opportunities to grow my career as fast as I might have if I was working full time, just because I would be doing double the amount of hours and I could have double the amount of experience. But at the same time, the company that I'm with is incredibly supportive of what I do, and they are absolutely stoked that I'm pursuing this. And so they throw me any opportunity and say yes to pretty much anything that I've got ideas for, which is great. So that's been key. But yeah, I think it's probably slowed things down, but it hasn't stopped them, and that for me is really, really important.
Yeah, sounds like it. And it sounds like you've surrounded yourself with a really good group of people that are allowing you to do the things that you want to do at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's really, really key in terms of what has sort of led to me being able to do everything. Is that if I found that I was lacking in any area of support, I've gone out and found it.
Yeah. And so if you look back on sort of this journey you've been on so far and your transition from Wellington, from work to rowing, what would you say are some of like the key things you've learned along the way, or like advice you would give to other athletes who maybe are considering the same thing?
Definitely finding that support. So if you don't have that support in your life, find that support in your life. Find somebody who's willing to sit down and chat with you on a regular basis, hold you accountable if that's what you need. Talk through the problems and issues that you've got. Ideally somebody who knows what they're talking about, but if not, just anyone, because anybody can help there. Other things is plan. So I'm a planner, and I really had to know in advance and plan in advance, just to make sure that I've got enough, money to survive week to week, or that I've, planned time to go visit friends and family to keep those relationships going. And part of that planning is being organised.
Yeah.
To learn organisation and time management early.
Yeah.
Pays dividends later.
Pretty key in the end, isn't it?
Definitely.
And like what I'm hearing when you talk, it's you've taken responsibility and taken control of what you wanted to get out of this by intentionally seeking out the people that you knew you needed, intentionally keeping those relationships going, doing that planning. It's that, to me, when I hear you talk, you've just taken this responsibility for your life and just been like, boom, I'm going to do this, and these are the things I need to do it, which is quite an incredible thing to do, and it's going pretty well so far, I would say.
Thanks. I've had a lot of falling into things along the way. So sort of coming out of I went into nationals without a trial, came out of nationals with a trial. So those kind of things have fallen in place as I've gone along. I'd like to say it's all hard work, but it's partially right timing for some of that, and definitely the right support.
Yeah. Now, you don't just row and work, so you've got a couple other things on the go, don't you, Sarah? So you're also started some master's study this year. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I've picked up my an MBA, Masters of Business Administration, through Massey, doing that remotely. Nice. So just to add one more thing to the list.
Got a lot on your plate there. So with the study, the rowing, the work, what made you want to take on all of those challenges?
I've kind of always been a bit of a trying to do everything under the sun type of person. I get a lot out of being busy, just personally. I find it incredibly satisfying, very rewarding, and I like self-development and growth, and so part of doing the MBA is that for me. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot to balance for an average person, on a daily basis. So how exactly do you do it with these 3 balls you're keeping up? How do you do it to be able to manage those commitments? What are your strategies?
Organization and time management, and that's pretty much it. A lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's really one of the other reasons why I do quite a lot is that to keep variety and sort of this work-life balance thing going on. For me, my work-life balance is the balance between, studying, working, rowing, and then the things that sort of drive my life, my, family, health, my me time.
Yeah.
And yeah, sort of that balance and mindset shift. If one thing starts to go south, you've got everything else to back you up and keep you on an even keel.
Yeah.
And so I like that. In terms of planning and organization, I am sort of obsessive about my sleep, making sure I get enough sleep in the evenings and overnight. So I'm mostly good about it. I'm getting a lot better.
Yeah.
But food as well, being organized. So planning to make sure that I've got enough energy throughout the day so that I'm actually recovering while I'm working, so that I'm ready for training in the afternoon. And yeah, just being able to switch mindsets in between, sort of very, very different mindsets for working, studying and rowing. So being, planning blocks of time where I'm doing them, as opposed to just picking up and doing a bit here and a bit there and getting distracted, sort of doesn't end up being very productive.
I would love to have a look at your schedule and go through your diary and how you do all your planning, because it sounds like you're pretty thorough in what you do there.
A lot of it's up here, but I do have a pretty extensive calendar that's got a lot of to-do lists and tasks in it, for sure.
I can just imagine. So thinking about that, can you run us through sort of like a normal, regular day in the life of Sarah Wootton? Like, what does that look like for you when you've got all these things going on? How do you actually fit it in? Give us a run through.
I'd say it starts actually the evening before, probably.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Yeah. So planning out what the day is the next day is key, because I work partially from home and partially from an office in Hamilton. So if I'm in an office in Hamilton, it's actually faster for me to go from the rowing shed straight into Hamilton than it is to go from the rowing shed to my house and then into Hamilton, because if I do that, then I come home and I eat and I hang out with cats and I do get to and I'm far more effective once I'm actually in the office. So got a bit of a routine the night before to sort of get everything out for the next day, any food that I need to organize in between sessions. Sometimes we're doing double sessions as well, so being needing to have that packed to eat in between, so I can just go through the day. So a typical day is training in the morning, work. The intention is to fit in 4 hours a day, whether that's working from home or working from the Hamilton office. Some days that's more, some days that's less, in that sort of in between period. Training in the afternoon, then home. I try and get another 1 to 2 hours of work or study, whatever sort of needs to be done, and then try and watch some TV before going to bed. Keep my me time in there. Sometimes that ends up being sort of an entire evening of me time if I need it, and sometimes that ends up being an entire evening of study if I need it. So it comes.
You talking about me time, like how important is that piece in the whole scheme of things? Like when you look at your day, how important is that me time for you in terms of your rest and recovery and being able to do everything else?
Again, critical, because that me time could be spent, it could be cleaning the house, or it could be blobbing out to TV, or it could be a phone call with Simon or a family member or a friend. Could be doing some sort of crafts, or I paint as well. And so it's sort of doing something like that, because that's when I refresh. That's when I rejuvenate. It's really, really important to me. It's also I spend a lot of that time stretching. So I have the TV on, and then I'll be stretching and foam rolling and getting ready.
That's awesome that you prioritize that piece, because you're giving your energy to a lot of things through your work, through your rowing, that doing that me time almost is what gives you the energy back.
Yeah. If I don't prioritize it during the week, if I have a week where I'm, slammed at work and so I'm working in the evenings, or if I'm slammed with study and I'm studying in the evenings, I get to the weekend and I just can't do anything. I've just got nothing.
Nothing left in the tank.
Nothing left in the tank. And so in order to keep quality, because that weekend also includes training, but yeah, to keep quality of training and quality and make sure I'm still improving in the boat and off water as well, and that I'm still, achieving well in my study and still progressing in my career, really have to make sure that I'm able to perform every day.
Yeah. So intentionality again, isn't it? Intentionally putting those pieces into what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you've obviously been on a hell of a journey and you've got a lot of these things going on for yourself. Like what have you learned about you going through this process? What have you learned about yourself?
A lot. I have learned that I haven't found my limit yet.
Hey, there's more to come.
Right?
There's more to come.
Yeah. I've learned as well that I need to keep learning and I need to keep growing in order to be happy.
Yeah.
I've also learned that essentially being happy and being well is really, really important to everything else, to make everything else work. Yeah. And that's sort of the goal in life. So.
Love that.
Yeah.
And do you think, thinking about things that you've learned, do you think there are certain skills that you've gained or you have from your work life that you're able to take into rowing, and vice versa, that you've been gaining from your rowing experience that you're now putting into what you're doing with your work?
Yeah. I guess the main ones from what I've learned from rowing is the nutrition piece, in order to eat for energy, sort of to eat for fuel, but also make it taste good. So that piece, I'll definitely carry on. I understand a hell of a lot more about my nutrition now, and I'm really, really grateful that I understand what I need and how it works, because unless I went out and sort of taught myself that, I'm not sure where else I might have picked that up.
Yeah.
Sleep as well. Oh, we've got a cat here.
There he is.
Sleep as well, as to how important that is for me. So sometimes I'll be aware of if I feel like I've slept well, but I haven't slept enough.
Yeah.
I can feel fine, but my concentration doesn't last. And so I'll actually not learn as much in a session as I would have otherwise.
Yeah.
And the main thing that I brought from work into rowing is the time management, the organization piece, and it's also accountability as well. So you have to, being told to do something, do the thing. It's you learn that through work when you move from studying, which is very, very self-directed, to working as part of a team.
Yeah,
that's something that I've also brought across.
Yeah, very nice. So what's next on the agenda for you? What have you got coming up? You've got all these things that you're doing. Is there anything else coming up that you're adding on to the plate there to keep yourself growing?
I'd like to buy a house in the next year.
Hey, like that.
Yeah, stress out about one more thing. No, I'm pretty content for now. Obviously on the rowing career, I'm pushing for the to sort of keep moving, keep growing there. 2024 Olympics would be is sort of on the cards, and that's what I'm pushing for at the moment. Work wise, pushing for my career at the moment. I'm a project manager. Eventually I'll move into the position of a senior project manager once I gain enough experience. So just sort of working through that, sort of trying to take as many opportunities as I can there. Yeah. And hopefully in 3.5 years I'll finish my master's.
It's amazing. It's just incredible what you're doing right now. like you're obviously juggling all these things, and I know there are probably rowers and athletes out there who are in all sorts of different scenarios, wanting to create their own path to maybe haven't started rowing, maybe are in rowing, maybe want to look at a career trying to do the same thing. What advice would you give those athletes when they're considering this or wanting to do this?
Never take no at face value. Like, again, it's finding that support. It's sort of finding people to help lift you up and push you along, but also passing that on to other people. So sort of pulling other people up with you as well.
Yeah.
Is sort of a key part of that. And believing, finding people that believe in you, but also believing in yourself to sort of push through that, because it's not an easy path in terms of it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of pushing yourself. It's a lot of pushing your body, coming into sort of high performance sport. And it's also, my pathway isn't common. Coming in as an adult, I raced my first regatta when I was 24. Sort of by that point, most athletes are in the elite team. They're pursuing the pathway by that point, but it's possible. And if if your path is different, that doesn't mean it's not available.
Yeah,
it's just different.
Yeah, I think that's an important sort of message to send out there, right? That you can create your own path and you can take responsibility for the path you want to take, and it might not look like everybody else's, but it's your path. And from what you sort of said today, talking about it's about finding the right people to support you and fostering those relationships and making sure you're doing the planning in the organization that is required to get there. So yeah, it's incredible what you do every day, and I feel very lucky that I get to work with you down here in Karapiro. So really appreciate you coming on and being able to just share a bit about your story with everyone else out there. I think it's valuable to learn that there is multiple ways to get to where you are, and you can do these many things. And you just got to have a couple good strategies in there.
Yeah, and sort of never give up on that. Like, if you got something you want to do, doesn't mean you can't do it all at once.
Yeah, there you go. You're the perfect example, aren't you? Yeah, so thank you so much, Sarah, for taking your time out of, I know, what is always a busy day for you. So we really appreciate you coming to chat with me today. So that's a bit of a wrap here for us on the Beyond the Boat podcast series. Thank you so much for anybody who is watching and listening. If you have been and you have questions about anything that's talked about in the episode, you can connect with us. Send us an email at podcast@rowingnewzealand.kiwi, and we'll get in touch with you, no doubt. But until next time, we'll see you then. Thanks, Sarah.